So good afternoon. I want to first say I'm sorry that we're here in the hangar. Normally we would be in our auditorium, but our auditorium is under construction. So that's why we're here in the hangar today. I want to thank you guys for being here. I do have Superintendent of Schools, Dr. David Moore, here with me, as well as Major Crimes Detective Phil Doherty behind me, and they'll be here to help answer some questions for you guys. But essentially I'm going to start off with how this case came to us. On Sunday, October 10th, the Indian River County Sheriff's Office 911 received a call of shots fired. They received a call of a man having been shot at an apartment complex, and our deputies responded. The detectives became involved. Early in the morning hours, it was after 4 a.m. that this shooting took place. Our detectives went out. They were able to recover video from the apartment complex, and through that video, which was placed on our social media site, Facebook, on many of our social media, we were attempting to identify, and this is one of the still photographs of the two gentlemen that were identified as being involved in this shooting. And so we placed the photographs, the video out there, and we asked through Crime Stoppers if anybody could provide information on who these two men were that were involved in the shooting. Now, our victim in this case said, all I know is I was in my apartment. I woke up to a man getting into the bed. When I got out of the bed, I encountered another man in my apartment, and we got into a scuffle, and next thing I know, I'm getting shot at. So we have very limited information. The big thing that I want to talk about here is the fact that that video that we put out, those photos, ultimately resulted in 2 arrests. We want to thank our partners at Crime Stoppers. We received an anonymous tip through Crime Stoppers. They gave us the exact names of these 2 men, where they were living, and they were ultimately identified. This is the 2 photos. Phil, I'm going to have you hold one of these. This is Darius Cohen, and the other one is Akua Hallback. What we ended up finding out as a result of our investigation through, and I'm just going to set this one down here for now. Essentially, these 2 gentlemen, who are local PE teachers, 2 different elementary schools, were out drinking. They were out at 2 of our different establishments in the city of Vero Beach, known for drinking. They left those facilities going home with a female. That was actually Mr. Hallback had met a young lady, and he decided that he wanted to go back. So they traveled in his Challenger, his red Challenger, to her apartment, which was off of Oslo Road, and he went inside the apartment with this young lady. Mr. Cohen here waited outside the apartment while Mr. Hallback was inside, and a couple hours go by. It's about 4 a.m. These guys are seen on video going in and out of the apartment. Well, at some point, Mr. Hallback came back out, got Mr. Cohen. Mr. Cohen had to use the restroom. So they went to go back into the apartment that he had been in with this young lady, except for they went into the wrong apartment. When they went into the wrong apartment, they went into a couple who have children inside of their house. Mr. Cohen went into the restroom. He needed to use the restroom. Mr. Hallback went in and got back into the bed that he thought was the young lady's bed, but it was actually the couple's bed. The husband woke up. He said, "What are you doing in my house?" He went to leave, escort this guy back out of his house, confront him. Mr. Cohen popped out of the bathroom. The 2 of these this guy's walking these 2 outside. Now this is the combined story that we've gotten from the 3 of these guys. When they get out into the parking lot, a scuffle ensues. At some point, somebody produces a gun. We don't know who produces the gun at this point. We don't know if it was either of the PE teachers or if it was the gentleman in the house. We don't know who it was. What we know is there's a scuffle, and on video that's going to be released to you today, you're going to see this video. You can see the gentleman who lives in the house running away on video, and Mr. Cohen is chasing after him, and just after they get off screen, you hear 4 gunshots ring out, and our victim is shot in the back. He continues to run until he finds a friendly apartment that lets him come inside and call 911, which is at what time we were involved in this. Our detectives were able to secure a search warrant for the residence that these 2 gentlemen live in, and they were able to, along with some other folks, they were actually able to recover some drugs that were associated with Mr. Hallback. So he was arrested on a drug charge. Mr. Cohen was arrested on an attempted murder charge. When we spoke with Mr. Cohen, he admitted to the shooting. His side of the story was that they were struggling over the gun and it went off. But clearly our video, and after we talked to him and explained to him that we had video from the apartment complex, his tone changed a bit. And so we do have that. We're going to release that video to you today, and you can share that as well as part of this. But we've got 2 PE teachers that were involved in the shooting incident. We're looking at additional charges for Mr. Hallback, potentially working with the state on that now, possibly accessory after the fact as a result of his participation in this. At any point, they could have stopped and called 911. They could have said, we're in the wrong apartment. You know, this guy's produced a gun, any of those things. They could have stopped, but they didn't. And they fled, and they didn't involve law enforcement in any way. So for me, there's 2 takeaways. Number 1, Crime Stoppers works. We're very happy that we were able to identify these guys as a result of our partners at Crime Stoppers. The other thing is, you know, nothing good is happening after midnight. These 2 guys are going out, they're drinking at these bars. By 4 a.m., they're involved in a shooting. It just sends a message of nothing good happens after midnight. So with that, I have Detective Doherty here. He can answer any specifics about the case, any details that I'm sure you're going to ask that I won't have the answers to. And Dr. Moore will be happy to address any questions related to the school district. Did you want to just give a statement? Yeah, sure, please. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Sheriff. And first and foremost, thank you for all you do in keeping us safe. There's an expectation we have for employees in our school district, whether it's inside the classroom or whether it's in the community. And that expectation is you conduct yourself in a way that brings light and a sense of security for our students. And unfortunately, these 2 individuals fell drastically short of that expectation. So using my authority as a superintendent and given the fact that these were new members to our school district, new to our community, both on probationary status as a result of being new employees, I immediately exercised my authority to terminate them last week. So disheartening to have this information come to light. Very, very disappointing for us as a school system. There is no place for this in our school system. There is no place for this in our community. And as a result, as I mentioned, both employees terminated. One individual was Sebastian Elementary PE teacher. The second was Indian River Academy. So opposite sides of the community, but no longer in our school system. Thank you.
And sir, did they have prior teaching experience, or is this their first job?
These are our rookie teachers, brand new teachers, new to our community, new to the system.
Any other questions for me or Detective Doherty that we can answer for you?
Did they live together?
Have a history of any criminal record? History of any criminal record?
Do you have any criminal history on these guys?
Not as far as we're aware. They don't have any criminal history when we looked into it.
No criminal history as of yet. Yes, ma'am.
And did they live together, did you say?
They did, yes. They had a house in the north end of the county that they were living with. I believe there's maybe one other teacher that was living with them that we're also talking to. We executed a search warrant at that residence.
And these were elementary school teachers?
Both elementary school PE teachers.
And can you tell us the current condition of the family, the child, the wife, or the mother
Sure.
who's at home, as well as the family?
Fortunately, the family was not disrupted other than the gentleman who was shot, and he is expected to make a full recovery. You know, he was doing well. He's still talking with our detectives. You know, he's doing well. So he was shot in the back one time as a result of that.
Yes.
And so he is recovering.
And which one taught at which school? Do you know?
I have Billy back here. Mr. Hall back here taught at Sebastian Elementary, and Mr. Cohen taught at Indian River Academy. Indian River Academy. Greg, any questions?
Yeah, so what gun was recovered in the shooting?
We have not recovered a weapon at this time. We did a search warrant on the house. We did recover 2 weapons at the house up there, but we can't say at this time whether they were the weapons that were used in this incident. They will be sent for ballistics testing, but as we stand here today, I can't say for sure that either one of those guns, one matches the same caliber that was used in the shooting, but we can't say at this time whether it was a match.
Did they say why he shot the guy? I mean,
You want to talk on that, Phil?
Sure.
Stand up here in front of the mic.
Sure. The victim told us that during the altercation, a secondary party, Mr. Hallback, showed up with a firearm. At some point in the video that's going to be released to you all, you can see Mr. Hallback and Mr. Cohen have some kind of exchange. So we're not sure if there was a gun handed off between them or where the gun came into play. It depends on who you talk to. The victim said they came with the firearm. When we did our interviews with Mr. Cohen, Mr. Hallback, they claimed the victim had a firearm and that Mr. Cohen was trying to wrestle it away from him when the gun fell to the ground and he picked it up.
how long have they been employed in the school system?
New employees started this school year.
And Superintendent,
So you go through a background check. So as mentioned, to both clear the background check, you go through the background check. You also do a drug screening. So they went through the appropriate process, were cleared to be employees. It seems like this is the first incident they had, but unfortunately it's a very serious incident.
Do you need a college degree or?
Yes, you do.
Do we have an age for the victim?
What was he?
I believe he was born in 1990, if I remember correctly.
Do we have an age of the child of the victim?
There was 2 younger children in
There
there?
was one in the bedroom with them when the gentleman laid in bed.
Come up here to the microphone.
I do not know the age of the child that was with them in bed, and they have 2 additional daughters who were in a separate bedroom, but I do not know how old they are.
So 3 children were in the home.
That's correct, yes.
So that must have been fairly terrifying to wake up and find a man in your bed and then another man in the bathroom while your children are right there.
Yes, ma'am. The wife initially was the one that heard them and alerted her husband. She started screaming his name, and that's when he addressed the one that was in the bed, and he said he was trying to keep him calm because of the children in the house. He didn't want there to be an altercation or any incident, and realized there's a second gentleman in the house, at which time he walked them outside to kind of gain an understanding of what they were doing there.
So this gentleman went into the bedroom and laid between the 2 of them?
They just said that he laid in the bed. I don't know if it was between them or next to them or where exactly he was positioned.
In the video, it shows them walking into the apartment and it didn't look like the door was locked in any way. Did they just enter? Was the door unlocked?
That's correct. The door was unlocked when they got there. Mr. Hallback was the first one to approach the door. He knocked once and just kind of entered right away.
You believe this story?
I think there is a chance that they got the wrong apartment, which is an unfortunate beginning to a series of events. From the account that we've got from everybody, it sounds like they may have gone into the wrong apartment. However, what unfolded after that is unfortunate and why we're here today.
And I think that's, for me, the biggest thing that we need to recognize here is, these guys are out at 4 a.m., they've been drinking, they're back at this apartment, one guy's got drugs in his backpack, they're making bad decisions out there, and at the end of the day, they ended up in the wrong apartment. And this could have been a deadly incident. Fortunately, the victim is still alive today, but it could have been way worse than it was. And we're just happy with our partners at the school district. They've done their job and terminated these 2 guys, and it's certainly a better, safer day today.
Can you tell us what charges they face?
Yeah, the shooter, Mr. Cohen, faces attempted murder charges, and Mr. Hallback faces possession of drugs, possession of controlled substances. He had some pills in his backpack that were not prescribed to him. He doesn't have a prescription for them.
And what was the time frame and the nature of the arrest? Was it that morning or days later?
No, it was days later. We put the video out on our Facebook page. We received tips, a good Crime Stoppers tip, and followed up on that immediately, and were able to make the arrest Thursday. I'll tell you, last week I celebrated 18 years here at the Indian River County Sheriff's Office, and Friday morning when the staff brought this story to me, and I just didn't believe it. It didn't even sound real, and that's when I said, we have to talk to the press about this. We've got to tell the press. 10 months of being sheriff, 18 years being here, there's not too many stories that sound like this. It just didn't even sound real that 2 PE teachers were involved in shooting this man in an apartment complex. So that's why we're standing here, because I still can't believe that it's real.
Just to back up, Cohen did admit to pulling the trigger?
He did. He did. Yeah. His story goes a little differently than the victim's story and the video shows, but he did admit to it.
And you know what kind of narcotic prescription?
It was,
I believe it was Adderall.
Adderall. Megan?
Do they go through, is part of their background check for working at the school district, does that involve a drug test or?
Yes, you have to take a drug test, which you take upon, prior to your employment. So it was they did take a drug test. It typically takes 3 days to get the results back, but that took place prior to them walking into our schools.
And they only taught PE, like I know some PE teachers will also.
No, just PE in elementary school.
What do you say to the parents who may be concerned with seeing what happened here and may think, oh, well, I don't know what my teacher in my child's class may be up to after midnight?
Well, that's a tough question, but the reality is we hold a very, very high expectation as to what's taking place in front of our children each and every single day. So it's making sure you're in the right place at the right time and making good ethical decisions. And that's a behavior we want to model for all of our children in our community. And when you don't uphold that expectation, unfortunately, we have to take the appropriate steps, which is to remove them from our school system.
So they hadn't started, they were scheduled to start this week?
No, they start at the beginning of the school year. So probationary employees mean they had just begun as teachers.
How long is the probationary period?
90 days.
What were their qualifications as teachers? Did they have degrees?
They have degree at the BP teacher. Yeah, you have to have a degree. So that they went through that process. They did a background check, so they went through the appropriate process in order to be hired. Unfortunately, they made some really, really bad decisions.
Detective, did you say you found, 2 handguns in their apartment as well as some other drugs?
The drugs that were referenced were the Adderall in Mr. Hallback's room. The handguns were found with Mr. Cohen.
Thank you guys so much for being here. We appreciate your time, and we'll be happy to follow up with any other questions. We'll provide you a press packet with that video, and our media team will get that out to you soon. Thank you guys for being here today.